The night my sister died, I dreamt of drowning. Not the gentle drowning of bathwater or rain, the violent kind, the kind where hands push you under and hold you there, and the surface is so close you can see the light through the water, but you can't reach it. You can't ever reach it. I woke up gasping. The clock said 3:47 a.m. My phone was ringing. It was my mother. Her voice was strange. Not crying, not screaming, just empty. The voice of someone who has already done all the crying they're going to do and is now operating on pure mechanical reflex. "Lily's dead," she said. "The police say it was an accident, a fall. The stairs at her apartment." I didn't believe her. Not because I'm a naturally suspicious person. I'm not. My sister and I were twins, identical in every way except the ways that mattered. She was the brave one. I was the careful one. She took risks. I calculated outcomes. She fell in love with dangerous people. I fell in love with spreadsheets. But I knew, in that moment, with the certainty of a dream that turns out to be true, that Lily had not fallen. She had been pushed. The funeral was 3 days later. I stood at the grave in a black dress that felt like it belonged to someone else, and I watched my family pretend to mourn. My mother, who had never approved of Lily's lifestyle, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. My father, who had barely spoken to Lily in 5 years, staring at the coffin like it was a business problem he needed to solve. My brother Mark, who had stolen Lily's college fund to start a business that went bankrupt, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he was already planning his escape. And at the edge of the crowd, standing slightly apart, was Lily's boyfriend. His name was Daniel. He was tall and quiet and handsome in a forgettable way, the kind of handsome that doesn't linger in your memory. He'd been dating Lily for 18 months. He'd moved into her apartment 6 months ago. He'd been the one to find her body, according to the police report, at the bottom of the stairs, her neck broken, her eyes still open. He was also, according to the text messages I'd found on Lily's phone, a phone my mother had given me in a plastic bag saying, "You handle this, you're the organized one." A liar, a cheater, and a man with a criminal record for domestic violence that Lily had never known about. The text messages were between Daniel and a woman named Chloe. They went back 2 years, 6 months before Daniel even met Lily. Chloe was his actual girlfriend. Lily was his side project, his meal ticket, his way into the trust fund that our grandmother had left to both of us when we turned 25. We were 24. Lily had been 6 months away from her 25th birthday, 6 months away from $1 million that would have been hers, free and clear, no strings attached. The texts were explicit. Daniel and Chloe had planned it together. Daniel would date Lily. Daniel would move in. Daniel would gain her trust. And then, when the timing was right, Lily would have an accident, a fall, a car crash, a kitchen fire. Something that looked like bad luck but felt like a calculation. "She's so trusting," Daniel had written. "It's almost boring. I could do anything to her and she'd apologize for being in the way." "Just make sure it looks like an accident," Chloe had replied. "We can't afford another investigation." Another investigation? I sat in my apartment with Lily's phone in my hands, and I realized that Daniel had done this before. He had killed before. He had pushed someone else down someone else's stairs, and he had gotten away with it, and he had moved on to Lily because Lily had money and trust and a family that didn't pay attention. I went to the police. I showed them the texts. I told them about Daniel's criminal record, which I'd verified through a background check service. I told them about the stairs, about the accident, about the way Daniel had been the one to find her body, about the way he'd already changed his Facebook status to widower, even though they weren't married. The police listened. They took notes. They nodded in all the right places. And then they told me that without physical evidence, without a witness, without a confession, there was nothing they could do. The texts were suggestive, but not conclusive. The criminal record was for a misdemeanor, not a felony. The timeline was unclear. The case would remain open, but it would not be prioritized. "Your sister fell," the detective said. He was trying to be kind. I could see it in his eyes, the way he was already closing the file in his mind. "It happens. People fall. You should focus on grieving." I walked out of the police station, and I made a decision. Not a plan, not a strategy, just a decision. A cold, simple, absolute decision. Daniel was going to die. Not by my hand. I'm not a murderer. I'm the careful one, remember. I calculate outcomes. I don't take risks, but I know people. I know systems. I know that a man like Daniel, a man who preys on trusting women, a man who has killed before and will kill again, is not invincible. He's just good at hiding. I decided to find him. I started with Chloe. She was easier to find than I expected. She worked at a boutique hotel in the city, a front desk manager with a pleasant smile and dead eyes. I booked a room under a fake name. I brought a voice recorder. I wore a disguise, different hair color, different glasses, different posture. I looked nothing like Lily. No one would make the connection. I checked in. I asked Chloe for restaurant recommendations. I made small talk. I let her think I was just another business traveler, just another face, just another person who would forget her name the moment I walked away. But I was watching. I was learning. I was building a map of her life, her schedule, her habits, her weaknesses. She had a brother in prison, grand theft auto. She had a credit card debt of $47,000. She had a cocaine habit that she was hiding from her employer, and from Daniel, and from everyone who thought she was just a nice girl working a nice job. I followed her for 3 weeks. I took pictures. I recorded conversations. I built a file that would have made the detective at the police station blush. Then I turned my attention to Daniel. He was harder. He didn't have a job. Lily had been supporting him. He didn't have friends. Chloe was his only real connection. He spent his days at Lily's apartment, now his apartment, drinking her wine and sleeping in her bed and waiting for the trust fund money to be released. He didn't know that I had already filed a motion to freeze Lily's half of the trust. He didn't know that I had hired a private investigator to dig into his past. He didn't know that I had found the family of his previous victim, a woman named Sarah, who had died in a boating accident 4 years ago, whose family had always suspected foul play but could never prove it. I contacted Sarah's sister. Her name was Emily. She lived in a small town in Oregon, and she had been waiting for 4 years for someone to believe her. He drowned her, Emily said. She wasn't crying. She was past crying, just like my mother had been past crying on the night Lily died. They were on a lake, just the two of them. He said she slipped and hit her head. But she was a competitive swimmer. She didn't slip. She didn't drown. He held her under. I believe you, I said. No one else did. I do. Emily and I became partners, not in crime, in justice. I had the evidence from Lily's case. She had the evidence from Sarah's. Together, we had enough to put Daniel away for life. But again, prison wasn't enough. Prison was too clean, too easy. Daniel would survive in prison. He would find new friends, new alliances, new ways to manipulate. He would get out someday, maybe, and he would find another Lily, another Sarah, another trusting woman with money and a kind heart. Prison wasn't justice. Prison was a pause button. We needed something permanent. I won't tell you what we did, not because I'm ashamed, I'm not, but because some things are between a woman and her conscience, and my conscience is clear. What I will tell you is that Daniel is no longer a threat to anyone. He disappeared one night, 6 months after Lily died. His car was found at the bottom of a ravine. His body was never recovered. The police called it an accident. A drunk driver, they said, going too fast on a dangerous road. They found empty bottles in the car. They closed the case within a week. Chloe is still alive. I didn't kill her, and I didn't arrange for her to disappear. What I did was worse. I sent her brother a package, photographs of Chloe using cocaine, bank statements showing her debt, and a letter explaining that Chloe had been planning to testify against him in exchange for a reduced sentence. It wasn't true. None of it was true. But her brother believed it. He was released from prison 6 months after Daniel disappeared, and he went looking for Chloe. Not to hurt her, I don't think he hurt her, but to confront her, to ask her why, to stand on her doorstep and demand answers she couldn't give. Chloe moved away, changed her name, started over. She lives in a small apartment in a city she hates, with a job she despises, with the constant gnawing fear that someone from her past will find her again. That's not justice. That's not revenge. That's just consequence. The natural result of choosing to help a man kill another woman for money. As for me, I'm still the careful one. I still calculate outcomes. I still have Lily's phone in a drawer, and the trust fund money is still frozen, and my mother still calls me every Sunday to ask why I'm not married yet. But sometimes, late at night, I dream of drowning. Not the violent drowning of hands pushing me under. The gentle kind. The kind where I'm floating on my back, looking up at the sky, and Lily is floating next to me. "Thank you," she says in the dream. Her voice is the same as mine. We were twins after all. We shared everything, including our vocal cords. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you," I say. "You did," she says. "You saved me from being forgotten." I wake up. The clock says 3:47 a.m., the same time as the night she died. I lie in the dark and I listen to the silence, and I think about the difference between justice and revenge. Justice is for the world. Revenge is for the self. I needed both. I took both, and I would do it again. Every single thing I did, because Lily was my sister, and sisters protect each other, even when one of them is gone. The last thing I did, before I closed the file on Daniel forever, was visit the apartment where Lily died. The stairs were still there. The same stairs she'd fallen down, the same stairs Daniel had pushed her down. I stood at the top and looked down at the bottom, and I counted the steps. 12. 12 steps between life and death. 12 steps between Lily and the floor. I walked down slowly, one step at a time, and at the bottom I knelt and touched the spot where her body had landed. The carpet had been cleaned, but I could still see the stain. Not blood. Something else. Something that looked like water, but felt like grief. "I love you," I whispered. "I will always love you, and I will never let anyone forget your name." I stood up. I walked out. I locked the door behind me. The revenge is over. The justice is done. But the grief is forever. That's the part no one tells you about revenge. You think it will make you whole. It won't. You think it will fill the hole. It won't. What it does is give you permission to keep living. Permission to wake up in the morning and eat breakfast and go to work and pretend that the world makes sense, because the world doesn't make sense. Bad things happen to good people. Trusting women die at the hands of the men they love. And sometimes, the only justice available is the kind you make yourself. I made it. I don't regret it. But I don't celebrate it either. I just live with it. The way you live with a scar, aware of it, aware of what caused it, but not defined by it. My name is not Lily, but I carry her with me. Every step I take, every breath I breathe, every decision I make. She's there, the last sister, the one who didn't fall, the one who pushed back. If you're reading this, and you've lost someone to violence, to cruelty, to a system that failed you, I'm not telling you to do what I did. I'm not telling you to take revenge. I'm just telling you that you're not alone. And that sometimes the only way to honor the dead is to refuse to be a victim. Stand up, push back, be the last sister.